Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Lifelong Learners. For today's episode, I want to talk about jobs and employment from my own lived experience. It's important that I talk about jobs and employment because this administration is doing everything in their power to make life harder for autistic individuals. So come along with me as I share my experience with looking for a job and learning about employment. I will also talk about current events relating to the autism community. Stay tuned. Holly Tetreault. Living during unpredictable times where I don't know if my rights will be taken away. I have had many different jobs over the years. When I was in high school, I had an internship through community action where I worked in a cafeteria where I prepped lunches and served the lunches to families in the community. I also liked this job because my coworkers were supportive of me. It didn't matter to them that I had autism. During this time, I didn't know I was stimming, but I still managed to have a job. When I started college, I had a restaurant job, but I also had a work-study job at GCC. I never realized back in 2021 that having two jobs and going to school was too much for my overall health. Once I had my breakthrough seizures that same year, a week before Christmas, I started to think about what was really important to me, having a job or going to college. It's taken me years to figure out that I can't go to college and have a job at the same time because it's too much stress on my body. I also want a job that makes me happy, and if I am doing podcasting for the rest of my life, then I will be happy with that. I enjoy being able to advocate for people who have disabilities. Writing podcasts helps me to advocate for other people who don't have a voice or are afraid to speak up. For me, each job I had to struggle with time management. For example, I would have too many things planned outside of work, and I didn't give myself any downtime. I am trying to manage my time better so I can do school, write my podcast, and continue my advocacy work. The many jobs that I have had over the years, there are many things that I would change about some of the jobs I've had. For example, when someone tells me that I need to clock out for my meal breaks, one of my coworkers or my boss should have showed me how to clock out instead of just telling me. This was when I was a prep cook at Champneys. It was hard for me to keep up with all the work, and doing dishes on my own was hard. Also, this job was fast-paced And it was hard for me to go fast at a job. Well, after this job, I made the mistake to get another restaurant job. This experience made me realize that I need to take care of myself because it was hard for me to put my needs first with having a job. I found it hard to spend time with Mom. I haven't found a job that I would do for more than a year besides podcasting. Being able to share my story and help other people at the same time is what I've been wanting to do my whole life. I think another reason I left these jobs so soon is because after a period of time, I don't enjoy the job as much. Then I lose interest in the tasks I am doing because it's not as enjoyable for me the more I do something. As I am getting older, I am noticing that having a job only brings up bad memories of how people used to treat me and didn't even care that I had autism or epilepsy. It was hard for me to work night shifts at my restaurant jobs because most of the time I wouldn't get home until 11 p.m. at night, and it took a toll on my body. Also, I enjoy going to school and learning more about autism, disability rights, and learning new things. Every podcast that I am doing is giving facts from my lived experience. We are living in uncertain times, but my mission in life is to help others and to debunk the myths about autism. What is being said about autism and people with disabilities isn't right. I left my previous job so I can continue to advocate for people with disabilities. Having invisible disabilities can be challenging, especially in the workplace. I find when I am around too many people or it's too loud, then I won't be able to focus on what I need to do at work. The jobs that I've had in the past interested me in the beginning. Then as time goes on, the jobs get boring and I lose interest in the job. From an early age, I was pressured to find a job. Some of my teachers from high school were pressuring me to have a job, and I felt like they didn't care about me wanting to go to college. During this time, it was hard for me to listen to what I wanted to do in life compared to what my teachers wanted me to do. As I tried to get my first couple jobs, I never realized how difficult the interview process was going to be. It was hard for me to make eye contact with the other person. I found it hard to answer their questions. In general, it was hard for me to read the other person's social cues. All of these years while I was working, I was undiagnosed with an intellectual disability until February of 2025. I find when I was working at my previous jobs that I had a hard time keeping up with my coworkers. It can be hard for me to understand what is expected of me unless I have clear directions, and the directions are written down step by step. It was hard for me to decide between having a job and going to college because I always thought that I could do everything, and I thought I could handle school and work at the same time. For some time, I couldn't figure out that having a job and going to school was too much for me. It took many jobs and figuring out what was going to make me happy in life, that I have jobs that I don't enjoy. I pretend to enjoy these unpleasant things so I can get through the day. Also, I would find myself coming home from work with little to no energy. Plus, I had injured my left knee this past January when I fell in my apartment, moving a heavy box of books. I miss the people who I work with at the farm, but with my knee still giving me problems, I've had to focus on recovering from this injury. Some people might think that I sit around and do nothing. I've been keeping myself busy by doing my podcasts, and I am going back to school next month so I can keep up with the current research about autism and learn more about disability rights so I can use this information in my podcasts. I want to do more podcasting as a full-time job because not only is it something I enjoy doing, I am getting my autism story out there and helping other people at the same time. I have devoted every day to advocating for other people and getting the facts about autism out there. If I can help one person, that would make me so happy. I know there is a lot of false information out there about autism, but I am here to debunk some of the myths about autism. One thing that people just don't understand or care about is that there is plenty of scientific evidence to say that vaccines don't cause autism. Our president is trying to blame parents for their child's autism when that isn't true, especially blaming pregnant mothers for their child's autism because they took Tylenol while they were pregnant, and that is false. All this false information creates more stigma for the autism community. Also, parents don't know who to turn to for information about autism because the president and RFK Jr. are telling them one thing while their doctors are telling them another thing. My autism can make finding and maintaining employment harder due to burnout, sensory overload, especially when it's too crowded or too loud. I like podcasting because I'm in the recording studio with only one other person. I can talk about whatever I want to talk about in each episode. I find with doing podcasting for a few months that I am starting to heal from the bad experiences I had as a kid. I want other people to know that it's okay to be different, and it takes time to accept yourself for who you are. I've had many challenges growing up, but I don't let that stop me from doing my podcasts and advocating for people who have disabilities. As I said before, if my podcast could help one person, I would be happy. This concludes today's episode of Lifelong Learners. Today I talked about autism and employment from my lived experience. I also talked about autism, current events, and the goals for my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Lifelong Learners Podcast, or you can go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I want to thank Alex, everyone at GCC, and all of my fans for helping me get my autism story out there, while continuing to debunk the myths about autism. Stay tuned for the next episode. Holly Tetreault.